These next two questions I'm going to ask together because they kind of complement each other. Um, from Matthew, hey Viv, I'm creating a series and have pitched to a few studios, but I am now looking into making it independently. Would you recommend Kickstarter for the first episode or a different method? And then afterwards, Will asks, how did you fund Has Been Hotel? So maybe like both about like how would
How would
funding, yeah,
funding for indie stuff.
what do you
Yeah,
recommend?
the big thing, because I feel like the biggest hurdle that indie stuff has is just money. That is, I mean, at the end of the day, the reason that studio shows get made is because there's a lot of money behind them, and indie shows, do not have that luxury. My journey with Has Been was literally every dollar to my name at the time, and I had a savings, and I had not quite an inheritance, but kind of like a bit of money that I got from a family member that was meant to, just be my little initial fund if I was going to move out. So what I did was I ended up staying at home, where I lived with my grandparents. So I didn't have to pay a substantial amount for rent. And so I was able to retain all the money I made. And I was working on a lot of freelance, which wasn't paying great, but every bit of freelance money was going towards myself and for this budget. And I was also already on Patreon for just creating art. And it wasn't bringing a whole lot in, but it was bringing enough to squirrel away every single month. And so I originally just started with my savings, and I thought they would cover, I was like, okay, this is going to cover the boards. So got to the boarding stage, had a little bit extra funds to start on animation. And I was like, okay, so I would recommend personally, just because it's been my lifesaver, is Patreon, because it's ongoing. So it can filter in, even if you're not making a lot, it can filter in, and you can use this right now. And then by the time you're done that, because everything in animation takes time, by the time you've done that, you've gotten the next payment for this bit. And you just try and keep it going like that. Because I had my savings initially that did this big push, and then slowly filtered in. And then I was also working freelance still the whole way. I've only gotten to the place now where I can work full time and not do any freelance, but I still do here and there because it's kind of my spending money now. But I would recommend Patreon, just because Kickstarter, I have not run one, so I cannot speak to Kickstarter yet. I am not against it by any means necessary. In fact, I feel like it's in my future to do a Kickstarter, but my thing is the Kickstarter for me would be for something massive, like a feature or a season, because the way we've been doing now, we're actually amazingly able to make multiple episodes without asking for or without throwing a big Kickstarter. But the way I always say it is that my current show, like Hell of a Boss and Has Been, or anything we're making, is entirely funded by the audience, because we created such a solid thing that now, we can sell merch and we can continue with Patreon. But people see now what we did, and they go, we want more of that. So if you're making more of that, we want it. And that is what allows us to make more of that, And so I always say it to the team. I say it to anyone I meet with. Hell of a Boss, which was what we're doing now, because Has Been's being figured out in like the world of animation. But Hell of a Boss is what we're in production of. And I'm like, this has to be good. This is not something that we're just like, oh, we want to make more, so we'll make more. I'm like, no, people liked Has Been, people like this pilot, and now we have a duty to make sure that we're making something that the audience wants, but we're also having fun with. And so, I think funding really, like, to go do an ongoing series, you just need to make a good product. And I think with Kickstarter, it can be easy to be discouraged, because without having that first episode like already done, you're kind of asking people to take a chance on something cool, and you have to make a big flashy presentation, and it has to be very, so I would, anyone who's kind of figuring on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, you just need to make sure that your job now is to pitch this to the audience. Hey, this is why you need to donate to get this made. And so it's all about presentation on that end. That's why I personally feel more comfortable making something first, so that I can put that on the table and go, did you like that? Because we'll make more of that.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
So I would recommend trying to make the first one yourself, or making a proof of concept yourself, even if that's just like a minute of the film finished.
Yeah.
And then go to Kickstarter and go, do you want to see the rest? Because just based on my experience, that's what I would want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always like just a trailer for, oh, this is what it could be, because you never know. And I feel like that's the risk. So you just need to make sure you can deliver is my only advice for Kickstarter.
That's good advice. And I like that you mentioned taking things at a time and just focusing on, here's the funds for the storyboards. Let's not worry about anything past that. Let's just get the storyboards done.
That's my other definite advice, is that focus on the small term first and what you can accomplish first. Don't think of the big picture. Don't think about, oh my God, I need the budget for the entire thing yet.
Yeah. Just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah. Cause when you have the board, you can show the board to people. When you have the animation, you can show the animation to people. I feel like the more you have done and to show, the more, people will understand that's happening.